Welcome to On the X. My guest today is Kirstie Ennis, a retired Marine Corps sergeant, Afghanistan combat veteran, and one of the most accomplished adaptive athletes in the world. Kirstie served as a door gunner on 2 deployments before her helicopter went down in Helmand Province in 2012, a crash that took 6 of her fellow Marines and would eventually cost her her left leg above the knee. After more than 40 surgeries and a long road back, she found her way to adaptive sports, competed in the Invictus Games, took up snowboarding, and committed to climbing the highest peak on each of the 7 continents to raise money for charity. She's now summited 6 of those 7, including becoming the first female above-the-knee amputee to summit Kilimanjaro. She's the founder of the Kirstie Ennis Foundation, the recipient of the 2019 Pat Tillman Award for Service, and a leading voice on resilience, recovery, and what it looks like to keep serving after the uniform comes off. So here we go with Kirstie Ennis on the X. You grew up in a Marine household. Your parents were both Marines. What was that like? Was it for you, I want to do what my parents want to do? I want to be a Marine from day one. Did they want you to go down that route? What was that like?
Yeah. So my dad actually joined the Marine Corps when he was 18. And then my parents got married, and my mom didn't even join until, 7 years later when she was 27. She barely hit the cutoff to
She
be able to join.
enlisted when she was 27?
hmm
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. And so they even called her mom when they were in boot camp. And
Yeah, they would.
yeah, well, and so I think my dad wanted nothing to do with women serving. I'll just go ahead and be very forthcoming about that.
Mm.
But my mom admitted that she would not feel fulfilled if she did not experience what it was like to have a life of service. And I appreciated and respected that so much. So she joined the Marine Corps when I was 5 years old. So when she was off at boot camp, my dad was trying to be the single dad taking care of me, and we were stationed on 29 Palms.
Oh,
like yeah, in the middle of
yeah.
nowhere. I was digging holes underneath Condor Elementary School and just very confused as to what was going on. But then after my mom got home, and one of my proudest moments is my dad and my grandpa bringing me to Paris Island and watching my mom walk across that parade deck. And so after we all got home, and then my entire existence just knew about my parents woke up at 4 a.m. every day. They put on the cape, they put on the uniform, and there was a structure, there was a routine. And I admired that so much because they were doing it every single day for the greater good. I mean, don't get me wrong, I do think there's a selfish piece of some of our service. Sometimes we leave home to do certain things. But man, I woke up every day and I watched both of them. Since I was a baby, put on that uniform, and I just admired it so much. And then I don't know how many people even know this, but my great aunt Lydia was one of the first female active duty Marines during World War II.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, so we have 3 generations of female Marines in my family. And I just thought that was the coolest thing. How awesome is it to be able to strip yourself down, build yourself back up, and then make sure that you're strong enough to do anything that you can for the people around you. And I thought that was the coolest thing. So yeah, I left home. I graduated high school at 15, and in 2017, I joined the Marine Corps. Or excuse me, at 17. Yeah, at 17. Sorry, should not say 17.
How old were you when your mom graduated from boot camp?
She was 27.
So how old were you?
Oh, I was 5.
Oh, and you remember that?
Oh, I have pictures and I have letters and all of that. That's the only reason that I remember it. Because I would not be able to remember any of that otherwise.
What was their MOSs? What were your parents
so
doing?
my dad was artillery, and then my mom was supply logistics.
Okay. My wife's family is all Marines. I joined the Navy coming from basically no military background. One of my grandfathers served in World War II, and then I had a great uncle or something like that who went to the Naval Academy, but I didn't have a military upbringing at all. And then my wife's family is like all Marines. Her dad was a Marine, her brother was a Marine, her sister's a Marine, her sister's husband is a Marine, and then she went into the Navy. So a totally different kind of experience there. You said graduated from high school in quotation marks at 15. What?
Yeah, I graduated high school at 15, and then
Wow.
I graduated community college when I was 17. And
Okay.
so that's where I kind of like messed up my dates and whatnot. But yeah, no, I left home barely 17 years old, and I already had a 2-year degree from college.
Wow. You graduated 15 from high school. Were you like in an accelerated learning kind of thing, like gifted students thing?
Yeah, maybe that's why I joined the Marine Corps too. We're a little bit different, but yeah.
When you joined, was it a post 9/11 world or a pre 9/11 world?
I love this question because I was in 5th grade, and my 5th grade teacher, Mrs. Todd, even had like the crashes happening in real time on TV. And
Mm-hmm.
my mom came running into my 5th grade classroom because my dad had since left um, the Marine Corps and has been on oil and like the oil and gas pipelines for, yeah, since he got out of the Marine Corps. And they didn't know where my dad was. And my dad was actually in New York City. He was working outside of Poughkeepsie. And my mom came running in because she was afraid that she was going to get stop lost because of
Mm-hmm.
everything that was going to go down. And so me, my mom, and my little sister laid on the floor and just we didn't have a lot of money. So we laid on the floor and was watching everything unfold during 9/11 and waiting to hear back from my dad.
Mm.
And I think that was something that like opened my eyes so much because
Mhm.
we can, yeah, we can watch so many things unfold in front of us that are difficult and painful, but then the way that you can see people come together around it, it was it meant a lot. And my mom actually was just out here helping me because I was having a hard time. And she actually, even after like being voided of having to be stop loss because my dad was not around and she had 2 little girls, admitted that she tried to reenlist in the Marine Corps.
Mm.
They were both gonna try and like go back. And that was eye opening to me. And I think that just speaks volumes about um our veterans and the people who continue to show up for one another and create that community and that connection.
So, what kind of impact did that have on you and your decision to enlist? Like, were you already, this is what I want to do, I'm going to do it anyway, and this is only reinforcing my decision?
Oh yeah,
Okay.
100%. So it was reinforcing it. Like I used to get off of the school bus and like there's a VHS tape from like women's Marine Corps boot camp. I would get off
Okay.
the bus every single day, pop it in the player and watch it. And I just thought it was so cool. And then after watching what happened during 9/11, it was just kind of reinforced. I mean, I think
Hmm.
there's a lot of people out there who are like fight or flight. Like you know who you are at your core. And if you want to protect people who can't protect themselves, you know that. There are people like you. Like if you hear if you hear something, you're gonna run towards it, not
Hmm.
run away from it. And I think I've always had that.
When you actually got into the Marine Corps, was it kind of everything you had expected? Were there things where it wasn't what you expected? Right? Was it everything you had ever dreamed of, or was there misalignments? Because you would have a much better, based on your family situation, I would think you'd be a lot more prepared for, I would hope, the reality of it. But I'm just curious if that was true.
Yeah, yes. So like I loved boot camp. Like in my mind, I'm like, where else do you get to go and you get like paid a little bit of money to run or paid
Sure. Yeah.
to go shoot a gun? Like, what are you talking about? All of that was great. And I do think I was well prepared. Um, because I did have conversations with my dad and like we there was a lot of like my mom signed those papers so quickly because I will not say that I was a bad kid, but I was a very curious child. And so my mom, when she had to sign those papers when I was 17 years old, she was like, bye. My dad, on the other hand, like, drove home like a bat out of hell, just to be able to be like, "Are you sure you're gonna do this? Please finish your 4-year degree. Please join as an officer." And
Uh-huh.
I flat out told him, I was like, I'm leaving. Like, this is what's on my heart." And so when I left, I was very well prepared for, like, what boot camp would be like. Um, but I picked a career in aviation. Like, my ASVAB scores were great. I could have done whatever I wanted, but however my brain was working at that time, I decided that I wanted to go into aviation and be a mechanic because it was something so foreign to me and something that I knew nothing about, and it, like, just drew in my curiosity. So after I graduated boot camp, went through A school, went through C school, and then showed up to my first, like, assignment in San Diego, Miramar, I was the first, I'm even gonna say it, girl. I was 18 years old. First girl that had ever been in my shop, um, if ever, let alone, yeah, if ever. And so I think the hard part for me there was just everything changed. Like, the way that they had to interact around me, the way that, like, people were kind of afraid to, like, teach me how to read the books, how to carry the toolboxes, and sometimes they, like, made it harder on me. So I don't think I was ready for that part because I thought,
Hmm.
like, we would all show up and be there for one another. And don't get me wrong, like, we overcame that, like, we deployed, we're good, but that was the initial, I think, shock of it, was like, "Oh,
Yeah.
wait, you're a girl here." Like, you're a
Yeah.
little girl in a shop of all dudes.
Yeah. And this is something you share this with my wife. My wife was a surface warfare officer in the Navy and then a civil engineer corps officer. And I think it's her first ship. She was the first female on that ship. And I think she was the only female for, I think, something like 6 months. So, I mean, not just the, it's like she can't even go anywhere else where there's a woman, right? She can't like drive off the base or something and go hang out with her friends for that first 6 months or whatever. It was like literally the only, and I can't even imagine what that must have been like for her.
Yeah. But and it was tough too. I mean, well, and I will admit that I asked to not be treated any differently.
Yeah. Great.
And, so I was duct taped to doors and, they put me in, rotor head box like, crates and, like, they treated me the same. They gave me my blood stripes when, like, I
Yeah.
became an
Yeah.
NCO,
Awesome.
like, like, but
Yeah, I always
it
think
was
of I always think of Full Metal Jacket, right, where he's like, "Here you are all equally worthless." Right? We don't discriminate here. You are all equally worthless, and throws in some colorful language.
You don't need to endure a grueling 6-month selection course to be that warrior. You don't need to leave your family for months at a time to be that warrior. You don't need to crawl out of the ocean, be inserted behind enemy lines in the middle of the night, or breach doors, not knowing what waits on the other side, to be that warrior. You don't need to put your body and mind through things most people could never imagine to be that warrior. You don't even need to wear a uniform to be that warrior. You just need to stand behind those who do. And then you too can confidently say,
I am.
I am.
I am.
I am.
I am. I am.
Well, so talk about you. You then deployed twice to Afghanistan, right?
Yeah.
And this pivotal moment in your life with this helicopter crash, that kind of completely changed the trajectory of your life. I've been in plenty of helicopters in my life. Luckily, I was never in one that crashed. I'm curious. Can you kind of walk people through that moment too? Like, how were you aware of what was going on as it happened? Right. Like some of these things, it's like, I don't even know if you had time to think. Like, just kind of walk people through that experience a little bit.
Yeah. So, I mean, it should have been like this routine mission. It was June 23rd, 2012. And I mean, we normally, the aircraft that I would be on, we would not be flying missions in the middle of the day or anything like that. But some things came up. And it was strange because I was not even on my actual like assigned aircraft. My aircraft was down for maintenance. And on that day, it was just very strange. I think everybody is like a little bit superstitious. And I had my maintenance officer out on the flight line and everything, taking videos of me turning up this aircraft, and it felt like a weird day no matter what. Um, and so we were flying in what's called a section. You have 2 aircraft out there, and especially in certain areas, you would never fly with less than 2 helicopters. I was
Hmm.
the tailing helicopter that night, and the the things that we were doing, it wa it was just a little it's just a little uncomfortable. We'll just put it that way. And I say that after having like flown quite a bit, like
Hmm.
all over. Maybe not always as the tailing aircraft, but always as the leading one. And so when we got to the fuel pits to refuel and go back out, we ended up picking up 3 individuals. One was a contractor, and 2 were army medics. We were dropping them off in Nowzad, and then we were going out to Muskala to pick up some other Marines that we had inserted, bringing them back home. And then we never made it there. And the wildest thing to me is the entire night we were being spotlighted. So like when I say spotlighted, your pilots are being bloomed out, and people in different areas are basically tracking where you are. And so it was already a funky night. And there's an A&P post right outside of Nowzad, and um had some things go on. And before I knew it, my pilots were basically saying crash is imminent, and so you need to step away from your weapon, which my weapon was a 50 caliber machine gun, on a Gal 21 mount. So get off, step away from it, and my crew chief kinda, like, grabbed the back of my flight gear, and as we rolled left, there's a lot of variables that were going on, and it took me a long time to forgive my pilots for some of this. I'll go ahead and be very forthcoming and honest. When we rolled left, that's when my, like, brain already went into just counting down like I normally would do. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mains on deck, and that's all I could think about. And then by the next time that I woke up, I was, like, wedged in between, um, some seats and some tri-walls that we had, and when they finally pulled me up, I had a huge hole in my face, that y I honestly, I could fit my fist through, and my leg was already pretty much destroyed. So, thank God, for the contractor that I actually most recently met. They surprised me with him, is the one that held my jaw and my face in place long enough to get me into the lead aircraft, and then the lead aircraft took off and brought us all back home. 2nd Battalion, 5th Marines came out from from Nowzad and provided security for the rest of the aircraft and got some other people out. So, it was, wild. I'm just gonna call it wild. And my tail gunner, I don't know, I will not speak on his behalf, but my tail gunner actually went out of the back of the aircraft and hit the river rocks before we even hit the ground. And so the only reason that I was screaming and staying awake was to make sure that he was okay. And 2-5 came out, grabbed him, got me, and then was able to run us into the lead aircraft.
I
No, back
mean,
in November, they actually a very, very close army friend of mine, surprised me with with meeting the gunny of 2-5 then and the contractor that held my face in place. So, and then like I said, just recently been able to watch some of those videos that they have.
wow. What actually caused the crash, though? You said that the pilot said that the crash was imminent. What caused it? Did you get hit by? Was there incoming fire? What was the?
My dad gets mad at me for this, so I'm gonna choose my words wisely, but my pilot's choked. There was a lot of variables going on. We did have stuff going on with the A&P post.
Huh?
Bad conditions for
Really?
flying. Bad conditions for flying, but, yeah. I've always
Okay.
said that my pilot's choked, and, I need to stop saying that, but my pilot's choked.
Hmm. Okay. So at what point after that? I mean, obviously you end up in a hospital somewhere, and I guess what's going through your head at that point? Like at what point, what are you kind of thinking about your situation, like where you're going from there? Um,
So when I finally made it back home, so, like, I went through Camp Bastion,
mhm.
all the way through Kandahar, Landstuhl, I guess what's now Walter Reed, and then back to San Diego. And when I woke up in the hospital, there were 17 Marines who had just lost their entire squad, aside from, well, 2 of them, well, 3 of them technically. And I woke up in the hospital with them, and I had just worked with them. And I think that was my saving grace. I was the only woman on that ward, but I'm laying around all jacked up, and I'm seeing all these people who are, like, worse off than me, and all I can think to myself is, "Thank God I still have my eyes. Thank God I'm not paralyzed, and thank God that I have what I have, because there are so many of these other people that are worse off than me, and I will do everything in my power to continue advocating for them moving forward." And that is one thing that I am grateful for, because I think it bridged that gap from, like, what I experienced on that first time, like, walking into, like, a shop and then laying in a hospital with all of these other people who were so wounded and people that I had worked with, and, like, knowing that, "Okay, we're safe. We're gonna figure this out still." Like, everything comes full circle. It was terrifying, it was painful, I had to relive so much. I was pissed off about a lot that I had to deal with, like, mental health and doctors not communicating appropriately as far as, like, what they're prescribing medications for and everything else. But gosh, I was so grateful. I was so grateful that I woke up, and I struggled for a couple of years afterwards. But I just remember being so grateful that I saw familiar faces and people that I knew that would still be lifelong friends,
Mm.
because we were going to heal together.
Did you want to kind of get back in the fight? Was your thing like, hey, get me back so I can get back in the fight? I'm assuming that was the case. Normally, you ask
Yeah.
anybody that's in this situation, that's what they want to do, and I'm not surprised. I think that's what I would want to do. And what did the doctors tell you too?
Oh, yeah. So this is, like, a hard one for me because yes, I fought to stay in. I still got in, like, formation, in my camis and everything, in a uniform, or excuse
Hmm.
me, in a wheelchair. Like, I
Okay.
did all the things, and I fought for 2 years to stay in, and then I
Okay.
lost my med board 3 different times, and that's pretty much like your last strike, and that was probably the most devastating part for me, is because I never wanted to get out, and, I will never say that I was a great Marine, but I worked hard. I took care of people, I loved them, I supported them, and I did my best every single day, on every single flight, on every, like, best of intentions with everything, and I think that, basically because of everything that happened from my neck up, they would have waived what happened with my leg. Like, I could still find a way to stay in, but because of the severe damage to my cervical spine, everything that happened to the right side of my face and then my right frontal lobe, I wasn't gonna be able to fly ever again, and, I mean, which is crazy because I'm in flight school now. I can fly now, but I couldn't fly
Yeah.
in the Marine
Right.
Corps anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So, like, that was the hardest part, was being, and I think for a lot of us, like, being told no is, oh, that makes you wanna fight. So after they told me that I was gonna have to take my medical retirement, I felt like the rug was pulled out from underneath me, and yeah, that was tough. I spiraled pretty freaking hard after that.
Mm. What pulled you out of it?
The outdoors.
Okay.
I am very anti medicine because of I'm also very anti traditional therapies just because of everything that I've already gone through.
Hmm.
So just going outside and moving our bodies, like I think it's incredibly difficult for anyone who has not have lived experiences, who has read about things in a book, to try and give anybody who has been exposed to certain things any kind of therapy, unless you're going to just let me vent and like listen to me. Don't provide me advice because
Mm-hmm.
it is very very difficult to relate. And so for a lot of us who maybe have been forced into that medical retirement and don't want to accept the whole I'm going to be the monotonous do the telehealth mental health counseling twice a week, like getting outside, moving my body and finding purpose again, like I know that I am still worthy. You just got to move and you got to be clear on what you want to do because I do think a lot of our veterans struggle with certain things when there is no lack of routine. Um,
So talk to me a little bit. By the way, you're speaking my language here. I mean, we could probably sit down at a coffee shop and I could have a heart to heart about my own experience, which is completely different from yours, but coming to a lot of the same conclusions. What was it specifically about sort of traditional, conventional medicine, whatever you want to call that, that turned you off? What was it?
I found a lot of resentment, and it was because not necessarily that I see other people as less than equal, but because I felt like they were talking at me and like I was less than their equal. And that was the part that was hard for me. Like we are all so different. We are all like our perspectives and our experiences are not textbook. And so when they started using a lot of textbook language and nodding a lot and writing a lot and not actually giving me feedback or tools or homework to go back with or a means to like hold me accountable, it just felt like a waste of time.
Mm-hmm.
Um and so that's why I think like community and the outdoors, like go walk around, go talk to your friends. That's what's going to actually like help you feel seen and be heard um in a real way.
What, by the way, at what point did you lose your leg in this process? Because was there a period of time where you thought that'll recover and it'll be fine? Because if everything I've read is accurate, it was kind of at some point, okay, we've got to amputate this below the knee. Now we actually got to go above the knee, right? Is that all
Yeah,
correct?
yes. Oh yeah.
Okay.
So I'm actually so I'm 40 plus surgeries deep at this
Yep.
point. And so when I first got home, so nobody had touched my leg from the moment that I left Camp Bastion and got all the way to San Diego. It's a lot of time to not do anything with your bones. And so when I
Yeah.
arrived in San Diego, um, the surgeons came in and they said that we're going to take your leg. And mind you, I have no teeth, I have no jaw, I'm in a neck brace and everything else. And they were, yeah, they're like, we're going to cut your leg off now. And so I opted to do what's called limb salvage. And that's a double-edged sword because I think it's everything that I needed in that moment as a young woman to be able to heal up here first. Like take care of my leg, do all the surgeries. There was a certain point that they were doing what's called Christopher Columbus surgeries on my leg because the bones were all dying. Like they double-edged sword, like I said. But in that moment, I was so sad and so scared. Like, who's gonna look at me differently? I'm already so disfigured up here. Like, is anyone gonna find me attractive again? Am I going to be able to have kids? Like, what is
Mm-hmm.
my future going to look like if up here or from here and up is it was broken. My eyes, my ears, everything. I had no teeth. Like I said, the only two teeth right now in the upper lower of my mouth are my two front teeth. Everything else is straight.
Yep.
And so in that moment, I was like, no, I'm going to try and take care of everything else first. And then you can take my leg. And I did have damage to my arms too. So they were doing other surgeries. And then, like I said, maybe it bit me in the butt. but they ended up having to amputate no matter what. And when they cut my leg off, they did not cut high enough below my knee. So the avascular necrosis, which is like your
Mm-hmm.
bones dying, like the
Yep.
disruption of blood to your bones. They cut it. They did not cut it high enough. It started to still rot. And then I ended up with a very, very bad bone infection that took my patella, or excuse me, it took my knee. They tried to save my patella. And the VA, well, actually Balboa, I was going to throw them under the bus. They rejected me from the emergency room 3 different times, and a doctor from Scripps Hospital in Poway, California, is the one that saved my life. She like
Okay.
opened up my leg and it just all melted out. It was terrible.
Oh, God.
It was, and so that's how I ended up as an 8K. Like they did cut it off higher eventually.
What?
And then I had to have 2 other revisions to the bone outside of the VA or outside of any kind of like military hospital. And then I have personally paid for other revisions. And now I currently go back to Walter Reed for any care.
Behind every mission is a family carrying the weight at home through deployments and constant uncertainty. Donor funding helps provide counseling, childcare, education, and crisis support when it's needed most. You're not just a donor, you are that warrior. Learn how you can get involved at NavySealFoundation.org. What did doctors tell you in terms of your recovery? Did they give you hope? Were you given the worst case scenario and told you won't be able to do this and you won't be able to do that?
Yeah, everyone told me no. That especially, well, and I should preface some of this, like especially with how my spinal cord has been damaged up in like the cervical area, but then also like how I've compensated like with having to walk or being in a wheelchair for so long. Um, that I would not be able to do a lot of the things that I do. And I think by them telling me no, that it just like pushed me to go out and climb all of the mountains, to go out and
Yeah.
climb all of the things to help other people. And I will go ahead and say the ones that pissed me off the most were the ones that were talking about my brain injury, because
Mm-hmm.
they wouldn't even like approve my tuition assistance because they said that I would never finish my master's degree. I was going to speech therapy. I was going to all the therapies, and by God, I did finish that first master's, and now I've gone on to do 3 masters and a doctorate, all because people told me no, and then I wouldn't be able to do something. And maybe there's a little bit of bitterness because they did push me out into that medical retirement, but like, you're not going to tell me no. Like,
So do you ever look back at that and think actually it's a good thing they said that to you?
yes, and there's actually another layer to that too. So at the time, I was obsessed with becoming a drill instructor. So after I got home from that deployment, I was going to go to the drill field, and the XO of uh, the depot in San Diego came into my hospital room and flat out looked at me in the face and said, "You're going to be the first drill instructor with 1 leg." I'm not sure that I appreciate him now for saying that, but in hindsight, it was that challenge. Like, that's why I kept coming back to fight for more. Like, you guys can give me something to work towards, and I'll get better and I'll do it. So I think that's probably why it hurt so much when they told me that I was not going to be able to serve anymore, but also why it was like, anytime anyone's going to tell me no, we're going to keep doing more.
Mm-hmm. So, and where did that? So obviously, you've now gone on to do all these amazing things. You mentioned it a little bit here, but for people that don't know your story in terms of various athletic feats and climbing all these mountains and everything, so when did that come into the picture? Like, when did that spark come about?
I was literally so I went through the last of my surgeries in the last of the most like during that time as I'm getting out of the Marine Corps and kind of finally figuring out the above the knee amputee thing. I would have been healthy in January of 2016. And then they gave me my leg in February of 2016. And somebody approached me in the courtyard of the military hospital and said, "Hey, how do you feel about climbing this mountain?" And then they flaked on me. They canceled on me. And I was devastated because I had already been training so hard. I was like, this gives me focus. This gives me a goal. They canceled on me to go to Indonesia. And then in March of 2017, I was presented with an opportunity to raise money for clean water for the East Tanzanians.
Okay.
And went down to Kilimanjaro. And like, that was after another revision surgery that I had like 4 months prior. It was actually probably really stupid that I went down there. I'm not gonna lie. But it was something that gave me so much, like, I get to be of service again. And then when I
Mm.
got down there, I was like, holy smokes, you're still very, very strong. And you can still find other ways to be a humanitarian or a philanthropist of some sort. Like, you can still raise money and protect people and walk around outside a lot. Like, let's face it, Marines are good at walking around outside, picking things up, putting them down. Like that, like that's that.
Yes. Yes, you
And
are.
so, and so when I got down there and I was like, man, you crushed this. And I did what's called the wrong guy route in 4.5 days. That's unheard of.
Which route is that? Is that the straight up one that you go through the tent, trash area at 10,000 feet, or did you come in from like the western side?
The Western. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
much
there's
nicer.
well, there's the Harambo and there's the Coca-Cola routes on Kili. But yeah, so I went up it was essentially a speed climb, and the fact that like I did it, I was like, dang, I can keep doing this.
Mm-hmm.
And it continued putting a smile on my face. And I think climbing really gave me, it was an eye-opening experience because again, I didn't need medicine to do any of that. I just went and did it. Like that mental toughness and that mental stamina. And again, the people around me who were like, they were willing to watch me fall down and struggle and bitch, moan, complain, and work through it. They were there. They're not going to hold my hand, but I knew that somebody had my back. And then that was like what lit it off. And then that led me down to climbing the tallest mountains on all of the 7 continents. And, I never wanted to climb something feeling like I was doing something selfish. There was always going to be a fundraising initiative behind it. And then eventually that led to the Kirstie Ennis Foundation.
bunch of stuff in here. So it sounds like it was just luck almost. This first peak doing Kilimanjaro just kind of happened. And then that spurred you to do the other ones.
Yeah. So again, not trying to throw anybody under the bus or talk too much trash, but the individual who had promised me to like go out and climb this mountain in Indonesia, like just a few months prior, he flaked on me. And then I had a total meltdown. And 2 of my really, really good friends, Jay Glazer and Nate Boyer, you guys might know them, literally held me up and were like, hey, there's a shot for you to go down to Africa and hike and still do the same things that you've already been training to do. And I think that was, and I don't know if you know who Chris Long is. He's like the spearhead of it. But
Chris Long, like Howie Long's son, that Chris Long? Yeah, of course. Sure.
He's wonderful.
Yeah.
So yeah, he was the one that was like, I'll make a spot for you on this. Like, let's go. And we went. And all it took was,
how'd you get tied in with him? Like, he's an NFL, these guys you're talking about, Jay Glazer, like these are sports figures.
So I sat on the board of Merging Vets and Players, which is an organization that was founded by Jay.
Cool.
And so I became very close-knit with them. And they very different, like, mission and initiative as far as, like, being outside and moving our bodies, but, like, work out together, beat each other up in MMA, and then sit down and let's have, like, a fireside chat and talk through anything. And that always resonated with me. And I worked with them for a very long time, leading up to this. And that was like it was incredibly like pivotal in my life to know that they believed in me that much. But they were like, oh God, we watched her fall again. We have this like opportunity to go down to Africa and we're gonna pick her up. And that's what so many of us need. And then that just led to so many other things.
So of the peaks that you've done, Kilimanjaro is the one that I've done as well. And I did it like 15. And it's funny, I did it for charity too. Like a whole bunch of, I was still on active duty, and a whole bunch of SEALs, we organized this thing because my father had tried to climb Kilimanjaro a couple years prior to that. And he didn't make it to the top, basically because I think he had a heart attack on the climb, and his heart rate was just too high. And so he never made it to the top. And then he died of a heart attack a couple of years after that, or maybe a year after that, not long after that. Actually on a walking safari in Tanzania. He was back he really liked being in those areas, Tanzania and Kenya, and he was just on a walking safari and he had a fatal heart attack. And so we did a fundraiser for the American Heart Association back then, and I took his ashes up to the top of Kilimanjaro and left them there. And so I like there's a little bit of I can feel what you kind of feel with this kind of stuff, but it is the only peak of those that you've done. I share that just, I guess, because we have kind of that in common. But of all those other peaks that you've done Everest twice and had to turn around basically really close to the top, right?
200 yards.
Oh my God, that's so close. I mean, it probably isn't when you're that high up in the air and there's no oxygen. I mean, it's probably takes, I don't even know how long that takes to go 200 yards when you're that high up, but that's got to be such a tough decision. And I'm sure it's the right decision too, in terms of safety.
Well, and that's what I pride myself in. Like for a long, I mean, like I said, I've been climbing since since 2017. And, it took me a really long time to not cringe when people would call me a mountaineer. But no, I'm a good mountaineer now.
I bet.
I know when to turn around because I will come back every single time to be able to climb again.
Now, do you have a third expedition planned at some point to Everest?
Yeah.
Okay.
I am going back. I think everyone knows by now I'm too stubborn to quit. Like, too stubborn to quit, too stupid to die. So like, I'm just gonna keep going back for more.
Outside of Everest, what was the hardest one of the other 6?
I'd say Kirsten's, honestly. It's just such a technical mountain, and the location of Kirsten's, it's in between two tribes that they are still very much so at each other's throats.
Oh wow!
The Donnie and the Money tribes. So you're like bribing people to get across like bridges and to get through their different jungles. And oh my God, they destroyed our camp. Yeah. Very, very volatile.
Not Kilimanjaro was lovely. It was, everyone's so nice, and it's just a wonderful experience. I mean, other than the garbage, which that's my other question. Have we ruined all these mountains at this point? Are they all just covered with garbage, and is it just not even pleasurable on some level at this point?
So that's my hard thing is I'll be very forthcoming in the fact that like I'm not like an overly religious person, but I am a very spiritual one. Mm-hmm. And so every time before I step a single foot, my only foot on a mountain, like I ask for its grace and forgiveness for making my prints on it.
Yeah.
And I think that there are so many people who are so summit hungry that they forget about the impact that they actually have on it. And so I am a huge advocate for anything related to like the whole Leave No Trace program, like that you have on Denali. Like if you're going to poop, you're going to pick your poop up and you're going to carry it out. And there is nowhere to throw it out. I am huge on that. And I think that the people who don't have respect for that should not be out there. Mm-hmm. And that's a tricky one. And I will give Nepal's Department of Tourism a little bit of credit because they did try at a certain point. My first time out there, they were making you carry down trash. Yeah, like if you were going to attempt to summit, you would be loading up, I don't, off the top of my head, I'm not sure, but X amount of oxygen bottles and carrying them back down to get it all out of the way. And that was one thing that I did admire. I'm not sure if it ever stuck. I also think like when people turn to the outdoors in the right way, you learn how to respect it the right way too.
Yeah.
Like Mother Nature is the boss.
For 250 years, our nation has persevered and thrived because of the sacrifices made by those who defend it. Navy SEALs are the tip of that spear. Support them by becoming a $25 per month recurring donor to the Navy SEAL Foundation and receive our limited edition 250th U.S. anniversary t-shirt. Go to NavySealFoundation.org/250 to join the mission. What got you into the, I mean, because you're also well, this is athletic, obviously, but also a competitive athlete from a snowboarding perspective. And as I understand it, you hadn't done that at all growing up either. Like pre-accident, you weren't a snowboarder or anything.
No. So, well, to be fair, when I was 15 years old, my dad did take me snowboarding and I crashed into a tree.
Okay.
I crashed into a tree and no, I was, after I got hurt, I was in the hospital and I literally lived at the hospital for 2 years. And there was an organization at the time called Disabled Sports USA. And they came in and said, how do you feel about learning a winter sport? And I was all about it. Like anything to get me out of the hospital, don't care. My doctors originally just signed off on doing something like curling. Sled hockey was one that they were going to let me do, but they weren't going to, or sit ski. But then when I got out to Breckenridge, which is not too far from where I live now,
been there.
They, nobody looked at my medical clearance. And I just kind of like looked around and there were some people snowboarding. I was like, okay, let's do that. And then I fell in love with it. Like it was something where it was like, nobody can do anything for you. Like you can take the chairlift up, but you're gonna have to figure out how to get yourself down and pick yourself back up every single time. And it just so happened by the end of that week, the Paralympic head coach was out there and he was watching me. He was like, you have a lot of potential. And then from that moment on, I like committed to just being outside, being on the mountains and snowboarding. And again, I'll never lie to anybody. I was even sneaking away from the hospital and going up to Big Bear, like a few hours north of San Diego.
Yep. I used to go up there too. Had a lot of fun at Big Bear.
And competing. And I just, it really was like that escape that gave me solace. And I mean, I think the catalyst for where I gave up snowboarding for a while. I did come out of retirement recently, but I gave up snowboarding because at a certain point, like medals don't mean anything to me. When I've got 4,000 challenge coins and a bunch of other shit that I'm still carrying around, I don't care about your medal or standing on a podium. Like I just want to feel good about what I'm doing. I like committed to being able to climb. I wanted to be a good snowboarder. Like I wanted to be in the backcountry. I wanted to be a good snowboarder with normal, healthy people with 2 legs. And so I committed to climbing the tallest mountains in the world and snowboarding the ones that I could down.
Do you know Dan Knassen, by the way? SEAL Paralympian. He's a double amputee. Do you know Dan?
It sounds familiar.
Okay.
What does he compete in?
I think he does biathlon, I think. I might be wrong on that, but I think that's his thing.
It sounds familiar.
Okay. What kind of, did you do any mental rehab throughout all this stuff? Like whatever, meditation or breath work or journal. Had you ever done any of that stuff? Did you adopt it?
I adopted it after I got hurt. Well, I guess like when I was in the hospital in San Diego, my doctors were not talking to one another. I ended up being on like 12 different medicines, and I did try to kill myself on my alive day on June 23rd, a year after I got hurt. And that's kind of right around the same time that I'm going through these med boards, but you have me on Adderall and Klonopin, Valium, and all of these other things, like this weird cocktail of drugs that I stand on this, that they should not have given me. Or at least given me without talking to one another. And that put me into a very, very bad spot. And that's why I'm anti-medicine now. Like, I won't even take any kind of like pain meds or anything. maybe a Tylenol here and there.
Yep.
But after that significant experience and realization that did, like, I realized that later after I got out of the Marine Corps, that's what I turned to, was meditation, being able to sit still in silence with my thoughts and letting things just go by. I also had to stick to a very, very strict routine of like, hey, this is when we're turning our phones off. This is when we're laying down. This is when we're waking up. And this is why we're waking up. And just being very intentional, not only with myself, but with my time and the people around me. And journaling has been a huge one because I do feel like some of the conversations that some of us veterans have with the civilian sector, it's never going to compute. So like if I were to try and regurgitate some of this stuff to anybody else, like that's not you. Like they may not get the conversation. So like journaling and having like different prompts and being able to like get yourself out there in a different way without having to be so vulnerable with the world around you, it helps.
There's something at the end that I'm going to get to, but I'm going to kind of push pause on that for now. I do want to ask you real quick, as I was looking at the researching you and looking at the various links, that ESPN body issue thing. What brought that about? I'm just kind of curious about it because you pull that up and you're like, whoa, okay, this is different. This is different.
No, so that was like ESPN reached out to me in 2017, like sometime right around, like right before my live day. And they were just so fascinated that I was willing to, like, I make my own prosthetics. I don't get my prosthetics from the VA. I might get my sockets made. Oh yeah. Like my little crampon feet and everything that I give away for my organization. Like I rivet and I weld them myself.
That's so cool.
Because yeah, and so like just kind of through the pipeline, people started hearing that story, and then I was just doing very bold and big things at that point in my life, and they were like, "We've never had a veteran, when we've never had an amputee, like on the cover. How do you feel about going down a Joshua Tree and climbing?" And ironically, as you know, Joshua Tree is right outside of 29 Palms, and so it was very sentimental. I mean, I feel bad for the dudes that were taking pictures from underneath. They're very weird for them, I'm sure. But it was a cool experience because everybody has a story. Like everybody has a story. Everybody has a story. And how cool is it to like not make it taboo to look different? And like I'm covered in tattoos. Like my armpits are tattooed. I'm covered, totally covered. And I think one of the like coolest things about being in the military and like maybe your friends' kids growing up around you is like they're not afraid to ask you questions about your leg or your disability, or they're not afraid of a wheelchair. They're not afraid of your service dog. They're going to come up to you and say, "How do I help?" And because every single one of us will never ever be able to avoid an illness, disability, or just flat out getting old. So embrace what we have and celebrate what we have. Move your body. Maybe you don't have to put your butt cheeks on the cover of ESPN, but like look at those bodies and cherish them for all that they do for us. Like when everything is connected mentally, physically, and emotionally, spiritually, whatever you want to call it, we are capable of so much. And that's what that was about.
Yeah.
I hid it from my family for a long time, and my grandma was very upset when she saw it.
Oh, wow.
But yeah. That's how it came about, and that's why, like, at first, I was like, "I don't know." But then when I realized that there's a lot of people, not only women, who are uncomfortable like, any of us, whether combat related or not, deployment related or not, but, like, people in general are so uncomfortable with scars and something that they've lost and being different. Like, it is hard to step into your power. And I knew for a fact that that would give me an opportunity to be like, hey, it's okay. Go out and do it.
Talk about your foundation and what brought that about and what it's doing.
So I established my foundation in 2018, and a lot of it really stemmed from I was pretty upset with how a lot of corporations were squandering money, or excuse me, I'll say nonprofit organizations were squandering money, and how um, I truly believe that a lot of people were being paid too much money to be doing very little. And around this time, there was a lot of research coming out about misallocated funds, just put it that way, for some of the larger veteran service organizations that we all know. And at that point in time, I was also trying to climb my different mountains and raise money behind each one. But so many bigger groups were telling me that they didn't want to donate to these organizations unless it was my name, my face, my image behind all of them.
Mm,
And I understand that, like branding, marketing, got it.
sure.
So I created a 501(c)(3), and originally it was purely so I could walk around outside, pick things up, put them down, and raise money, and then give all of the money away. We are still 100% volunteer based. Like none of the money stayed with me. None of the we have no overhead. Like we operate out of a very large, we call it a storage unit. Like everything goes back. And like I wanted to keep that pure, and I wanted to keep myself honest in that. And so originally it started with other nonprofits could apply for grants from us, and then we would just there's a selection process from the board, and we would give
Mhm.
those funds away. And then it turned into a little bit deeper of a thing that I started doing my recreational therapy clinics. So we do everything from women veteran snowboarding clinics, amputee rock climbing, co-ed veteran, mountain biking co-ed, rock climbing, all male rock climbing veterans. But for the sole purpose of like bringing people together to move their bodies, give them like 100% expense, all paid experience where I lived. The people that just can give them a break and let them experience something a little bit different. And then the last thing was because I did get into making my own prosthetics, I started collecting prosthetics from around the country from either like deceased veterans or just we'll just say recycled medical device technology.
Mhm.
Veterans who were sending them to me, and I redistribute them all around the world or to people here at home um, that might be struggling with insurance. So that was
Nice.
long-winded, but that's what we do. And again, it's all from the heart. Like it's tough work. It's scary work, especially in this like time. And we do it with nothing. Like
Nice.
no one's paid. I am still to date the biggest donor, but man, it feels good to be able to like either 3D print something, recycle something, watch people like stand up and do something on their own and realize that they're going to be okay.
What's next for you outside of, I mean, okay, so you still got to get up to the top of Everest at some point.
Yes, I will do that next
Do
summer.
you have a new set of goals beyond that?
Kind of.
And that's not to put pressure on you. I'm not saying you have to or anything like
No,
that. I'm
you're
just kind of
good.
curious.
So I'm actually working for going to Mont Blanc in well actually here in a month. And then since you mentioned Kenya earlier, Mount
Mm.
Kenya, which is
Oh, yeah.
a much more technical climb than Kili. But yeah, so I do have those two on the docket before the end of the year. And um, so I am one of the first, if not the first and the only one to have graduated Fire Academy in the state of Colorado as
Oh,
an above
wow.
and amputee. Um, I mean, I think it'd be really stupid for me to like want to go out and be a structural firefighter. Like, you don't want to see me go up and down stairs with no knee. But I am in flight school to become an aerial firefighter.
Nice.
So I do have a
Very cool.
scholarship for that.
That
Yeah.
is awesome. And your story is so inspiring. There's a lot of takeaways from it. If people want to learn more about you or connect with you or learn about your foundation, where do you direct people?
I mean, everything's very simple. I'm a simple lady. So I would just go to Facebook or Instagram, and everything is either Kirstie Ennis or the Kirstie Ennis Foundation.
Awesome. When you look back on what's happened to you or what did happen to you, what's the story you tell yourself about that now? And how has that changed over time?
that even in the times that we feel like the most lonely, we're never actually alone. There's always going to be someone there. We just have to be bold enough and strong enough to ask for help. Sometimes we might ask for help from the, like, maybe not the most understanding, most patient or most kind people, but someone is going to be there to listen. And I am very grateful that I had that. And my big mantra is it's the 6 inches between your ears and what's behind your rib cage that dictate what we're actually capable of. Like, we're all allowed to hit pause, but as long as you keep this and this in the right place, you're going to be okay. And someone will always show up. So I think that took me a very, very long time to figure out, because it's easy to be angry about what happened to us, or we can be grateful. Like I mentioned earlier, thank God I still have my vision. I can still hear you. I'm not paralyzed. I'm sitting in this wheelchair because I took my prosthetic off. I have
Yeah.
access to a prosthetic. So I think being able to shift our perspectives and being able to control our emotions has been pivotal in my personal success
Yeah.
and like my healing journey.
So there's a young woman, she's 16 years old here locally, and she was in a really horrific car accident. I don't even know how long ago, probably a couple months ago. She was at cross country star high school, and that accident, shattered bones, shattered her pelvis, like a whole bunch of stuff, traumatic brain injury. She had a stroke, and she's working her way back from that. And I do some personal work in kind of the mental fitness space. You and I are very much in alignment in terms of our sort of view on a lot of conventional medicine and that kind of thing. And so I've been kind of offering her some thoughts on things like journaling and meditation and just kind of that aspect of it, of kind of turning the internal spotlight, because she's still working through things with memory and just like emotional outbursts and stuff as a result of this accident. And talking with her the other day, she mentioned how the doctors had said, "Oh, you'll never do this again. You'll never do this again." And I just said, stop. Like, do not buy into that. Like, maybe that ends up being true, but you can't believe that. And because like, that's part of her frustration is like, well, they told me I'll never do this. I'm like, you can't succumb to that at all. You've already gotten this far with this, and she's walking again and all of that kind of stuff. And so I think the ask I would give there is, because I think you could be an incredible role model for her, like just in terms of like, look, right, someone who's been through, like, in a different scenario, but like basically the same kind of thing, like a really traumatic accident that affected not only your body but your mind as well, and everything you've done. So what would you say to her? Like, what would you offer her in terms of not only mindset, but even some of the action items, whether it's get outside, some of the journaling practices, because it's the kind of thing I've talked to her about as well.
I think the biggest one would first and foremost, like, be vulnerable about where you're at. Like, it's okay to vent. You're just gonna have to vent to the right people, because just like those doctors are giving her these words, don't let them stick. You're allowed to be able to communicate with people around you, and you're not going to offend them. Don't let other people offend you. Or if you're going to let those words stick and you're gonna let them bother you and carry that out, like, through the rest of your day, look at it as a challenge. There's no one out there is allowed to, like, break you down or tell you what you can't do. Again, keep your head and your heart in the right place, and you'll be able to overcome anything. We just gotta keep standing up and putting one foot in front of the other. There's nothing embarrassing about our trauma. There is nothing embarrassing about scars or broken bones or everything that you overcome. You just stand tall and you keep going.
Love it. And I asked that, I mean, obviously it's a little bit of a personal ask, but that message, obviously, like, there's lots of people out there that are in that kind of scenario, or some version of it, right? It may not be that exact thing, but it's some level of that, some traumatic experience, whether it's purely an emotional one or it's a physical one or some combination of those things. And I just think that that's a really important thing to address.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, well, and, I mean, also, like, feel free to give her my contact information too, because I think, like, especially as a young woman, like, you're always going to feel like you look a little bit different and people are looking at you in a way like, oh, I'm gonna try and choose my words wisely on this. Like, we're softer and we're weaker, and now this really bad thing happened to you. That's fine. You are stronger than anyone else realizes, even stronger than like what you realize. And so like one thing that I mean, I didn't even really have a role model to look up to as a woman amputee or somebody who was scarred up like me. But the moment that I like kind of let my guard down and like reached out to people who were totally foreign, like they did not know me from anyone else, and was like, "Hey, I want to have an open and honest conversation with you." And you'd be surprised at how many people are willing to do that
Mm-hmm.
without judgment, and they are willing to offer their experiences because they don't want anyone to feel the ways that they did.
Yeah.
So, I would say just be strong and, like, you don't have to listen to you should listen to your doctors, you should not listen to your doctors when they tell you no, but there's always somebody out there that is willing to have a conversation.
Thanks for listening to On the X, the official podcast of the Navy SEAL Foundation and an Ironclad original series. Learn more at NavySealFoundation.org or text On the X to 60104. Please like, share, and subscribe. See you next time.